What's going on, you guys? This is Trent here at Rexburg Motorsports, here to do another machine walk around with you. Now today we are going to talk about one of the most exciting bikes for 2021. The Honda brand went all the way through their 450 models for 2021, and today we're going to talk about the RX model. Now the RX model is their cross-country closed course competition racer, and this is a great bike. A lot of the changes that we'll talk about today go along hand in hand with the R model, and we'll talk about what makes this different than the R model. So let's check this bike out. All right, in 2019, I did a review and walk around on the 2019 450RX from Honda, and it was a phenomenal bike. Now for 2021, Honda went through this bike and made tons of changes. This is one of the most exciting bikes out for 2021. And I'll tell you, Honda truly tried to do the very best to bring the goods, and I think they succeeded. So when you look at the 2020 model from last year and this new 2021 model, the only things that you could change between the two bikes are the brakes and the front wheel. Everything else is completely different. In fact, if you had wheels for your last one, you can use your front wheel. You can't even use your rear wheel anymore. They changed every single part on this bike to make sure that they were getting exactly what they were looking for with ultimate performance in mind. They went to an all-new frame for 2021. This is an all-new frame. What they did, they really focused on making sure it had sharper handling. They steepened the head angle. They lightened the frame quite a ways so that you can really start to make cuts and really start to throw this bike exactly where you want it to be. They thinned it up, and with this, they also changed a lot of the flex characteristics. The last outgoing chassis had a little bit of a reputation for being way too stiff. It was a bit rigid as you'd get through the chop and as you'd get through the bumps. The last chassis was rigid enough that you were getting a lot of feedback off of it. This new frame, they've really done a good job in changing the flex characteristics to make sure that it's not too flexy. Of course, it's pretty hard to do with aluminum. You can't really get these things very flexy, but they did a lot of changes to make sure that this is not overly rigid. This is going to be a great frame. All of the magazines have already started to rave about the fact that this chassis is a huge step up. So that's going to be a great thing to look at when you're looking at this bike. Now another thing that they changed a lot of parts with this motor. It is the same basic design and same basic architect as the last motor, but they changed a lot of things as far as the clutch goes. They changed the exhaust port. In fact, now this has got an oval exhaust port, and a lot of the exhaust manufacturers are finding that that's a little bit difficult to make an exhaust port. Yoshimura has an awesome one out right now, if you are wanting to throw an exhaust system on this. Now, a big thing that they did change, speaking of exhaust systems, is they went to a single-sided exhaust. Gone away is the twice pipes that Honda's ran for a lot of years on these 450s. Now with the twice pipes gone, they were able to narrow the back of this bike a lot. In fact, the spec was about 80 millimeters narrower in the back, which is huge. That's a big change when it comes to narrowing up that bike. And this is going to allow you to move back and forth on this bike a lot easier without having to worry about snagging up on something on the back. So that's going to be a great change for 2021. Not to mention the fact that going to the single-side exhaust saves you a lot of weight. Overall, this bike ended up being about 5 pounds lighter than the outgoing model, which is a big change with bikes. If you were to look through the change list and mark down all of the weight they had saved, they had lost more like 6 to 7 pounds, but you add a little bit of that back, going to a hydraulic clutch, going to a few of the other changes that they made with this bike, added a little bit of that back. So you've got an overall weight savings of 5 pounds on this machine. They did go to that hydraulic clutch, which is an awesome addition for Honda. This clutch has got a buttery smooth feel to it, and it's got a very light pull. The last cable clutch that the Hondas had were kind of known to have a little bit more of a heavier pull, which, in all honesty, on a 450, you're not using the clutch a whole heck of a lot, and so not a lot of people really worried about that. But this hydraulic clutch does have a lighter pull. Honda also has an awesome electronic suite on this bike in that you can tailor the traction that you're getting and the power that you're getting with easy pushes of the button. On this bike, they've got 3 modes of traction control that you can use at all 3 of their engine and ignition timing maps. So you've got a mellow, a medium, and an aggressive mode on your power output, and then you've got a mellow, a medium, an aggressive, and off on your traction control. Now, on this traction control, what it does is it monitors runaway revs. If all of a sudden your revs spike, the bike senses that as wheel spin, and so it will limit the power that you're getting. It retards the ignition timing to make sure that your rear tire can get back that grip. Very cool tool. If you're in the mud, if you're on really hard packed dirt, it's very, very noticeable. Now, that being said, it's not obtrusive. It's just noticeable in that you're all of a sudden hooking up where you never thought was possible before. So that's an awesome thing. Now, Honda really sets this bike up with some really good suspension components. You're getting 49mm Showa forks, and you're getting a great Showa shock. Now, that being said, their valving and setup for this year is a little bit on the soft side. Honda has a tendency on their first year models to be off just a touch on the suspension components, and they did it a little bit this year. It's a little overly soft according to a lot of people. Are they bad suspension? No, absolutely not, just a little soft. So you're going to enjoy this bike a lot if you're looking for overall comfort out of your ride. If you're not looking to go out there and push it super hard, if you're not looking to really get aggressive, this suspension component is going to be awesome. Now, if you are an aggressive rider, if you like to push it, you're going to find the limits of this suspension. So you will need a re-spring and re-valve on the suspension to get it to do exactly what you want it to do. All right, so if you're looking at the RX, what is different about the RX as opposed to the R model? Honda did very little things to this to make a difference in how it felt, but it is the same basic bike. So what did they change? You get a 2.1 gallon plastic fuel tank as opposed to the race bike's 1.6 gallon titanium fuel tank. You get different suspension settings that are set up more for cross-country style riding, so a little bit softer. You get an 18-inch rear wheel as opposed to the motocross's 19-inch rear wheel. This 18-incher is going to make it so that it's less of a likelihood that you'll get a pinched flat if you're riding in the rocks and stuff like that. You get an O-ring chain instead of a standard chain, and then you get a kickstand. That's it. The gear ratios are the same. The engine setup is all the same. This bike is the race bike through and through with just the very basic changes to make sure that this is ready for cross-country style riding. Honda killed it with this year's bike. This is going to be an awesome machine, and if you're a Honda die-hard fan, this is a way better bike than last year's model. Come on in here to Rexburg Motorsports. Come throw a leg over this bike. Come ask as many questions as you could possibly think of. We'd love to help you out. These bikes are awesome. We love talking toys, and thanks so much for watching this video. We sure do appreciate it here at Rexburg Motorsports, and if you could, consider hitting that subscribe button. We would love to keep you up to date with all the things that we've got coming out here for Rexburg Motorsports in 2021.